Last year, my retirement request was denied, and for weeks I told myself the problem was simple. I couldn't leave. The paperwork didn't go through. The timing wasn't right. The system said no. But here's what I've realized since then, y'all, and this is harder for me to admit. I've been mentally gone for much longer than that, longer than before the denial hit my inbox. I'd already checked out. I was still clocking in for sure, still answering emails, still leading meetings, still supporting my team. But the version of me who believed in the work, the version who found purpose in the title and the promotion path, she had already slipped out the back door, quietly, without announcing it, probably without even realizing it herself. And I just didn't quietly check out. I tried to leave multiple times. I published books on Amazon that went nowhere. I built courses that nobody bought. I threw myself in entrepreneurial detours, not because I was passionate about those things, but because I was desperate for an exit. Any exit. If you've ever sat at your desk and felt like a stranger in your own life, keep watching. Because today we're going there. Hey y'all, I'm Vanessa and this is Waves of Change, where we talk about what it really looks like to start over with faith, strategy, and a whole lot of it's all figure outable. Today we're starting something brand new, a series called The Waiting Cost. Now, if you watch the other series, The Waiting Room, you know we spent 6 episodes talking about who we become while we wait. The transformation, the grief of becoming someone new, the comparison trap, the fear, the identity shift. And y'all showed up for that series in a way that genuinely moved me. Your comments, your stories, your honesty, it reminded me that so many of us are living in a space between what was and what's next. But as I sat with those conversations, I realized there's another side of waiting that we haven't talked about yet. The side that keeps a tab, because waiting isn't free. It costs us time, it costs us energy, it costs us relationships. And we're going to talk about that in part 2. It costs us joy in part 3. It costs us our health in part 4. It costs us our identity in part 5. And by part 6, we're going to have a reckoning. But today, in part 1, I want to talk about something I've never said out loud on this channel. The escape hatches I built. The books I wrote hoping they'd be my exit. The courses I created that launched into silence. And what it feels like to be physically present in a life your mind has already left. So let's start where it all began, with that retirement denial. Because waiting isn't free, y'all. It sends invoices. And eventually every one of them comes due. Let me take you back to last year. I had submitted my retirement paperwork. I'd done the math, counted the years, checked the boxes, told myself, this is it. I've done my time. I've served. I've shown up. I'm ready to go. When that denial letter came through, I wasn't sitting in some dramatic moment waiting for the universe to shift. I was doing what I always do, working. I remember opening that email and reading it again, then reading it again, then reading it a third time, because sometimes your brain refuses to process information that doesn't match the future you've already imagined. I sat there staring at the screen thinking, now what? Not angry, not devastated, just empty. Because the truth is, y'all, I had already spent months emotionally packing boxes for a move that wasn't happening. I had mentally moved out of a house before the closing date, and suddenly somebody handed me the keys back. That feeling is hard to explain. It's like standing at an airport after your flight has been canceled. You already said the goodbye. You already envisioned yourself somewhere else, and now you're stuck at the gate. The denial didn't hurt because I wanted the retirement. The denial hurt because it exposed how desperately I wanted change. And those are not always the same thing. But here's what I've been sitting with y'all, really sitting with for a while. That denial letter didn't create my frustration, it just named it. It gave it a date stamp, put an official language on something that had been true for years. Maybe 3 years, maybe 5. If I'm being completely honest, maybe longer than that. Because although I was still showing up, still performing, still getting the job done, I take pride in my work and I wasn't about to let my team down. But the part of me that was invested, the part of me that believed in the mission, the part of me that found identity in the role and the title and the ladder, she had already gone. And I could trace exactly when she started packing her bags. I can. It wasn't one dramatic moment. It wasn't a fight with the boss or a bad performance review or some big betrayal. It was quieter than that. It was a slow accumulation of tiredness, of restlessness, of looking around and thinking, is this really it? You ever have that thought? You're sitting in a meeting and everyone is talking about metrics and deadlines and quarterly goals, and somewhere inside you a voice whispers, I don't care about any of this. I care about something else. I don't even know what yet, but it's not this. That was me, week after week, month after month, year after year. And here's what nobody tells you about being mentally gone. You don't just sit there. You start looking for exits. So here's what happened, y'all. I started building escape hatches. And the first one was writing. I've always loved words, always journal, always processed life through sentences and paragraphs. So when restlessness got loud enough, I told myself, I'll write books. I'll publish on Amazon, build passive income, create something that outlasts the 9 to 5, something that's mine. And I did it. I actually did it. I wrote the manuscripts late nights after work, weekends when I should have been resting, early mornings before the sun came up. I researched the KDP platform, figured out the formatting, designed covers, or tried to, took online courses on self-publishing, learned about keywords and categories and algorithms, and y'all, I hit published. And let me tell you something. The first time you hold a book with your name on it, there's a rush, a real one. You think, this is it. This is the beginning of something. This is my way out. My first book was titled Your Mindful Life, the cool adventure through the world of well-being. And then book 2, The Positive Path, a teen's guide to positive thinking. And then earlier this year, Move Smart, Spend Less, a single mom's guide to a budget-friendly relocation. You know what didn't happen? The sales, the passive income, the audience, the momentum. The books went up on Amazon and they just sat there. A few copies sold, mostly to people who knew me, people who wanted to support me. But the algorithm never picked them up. The reviews were sparse. The audience I imagined would find me, they never came. And I'm not saying the books weren't good. I believed in what I wrote. I still do. But the business of it, the marketing, the constant need to feed the machine, the daily grind of trying to get noticed in an ocean of content, that was a whole different thing. That was another job. And I already had one of those. Here's the part I haven't told anyone, friend. I wasn't just publishing books. I was publishing hope. Every time I hit the publish button, I was really saying, please let this be the thing. Please let this be the exit. Please let this be the reason I don't have to go back on Monday. And then Monday would come, and the sales report would be flat, and I'd close the laptop and drive to work anyway. You know what nobody tells you? Success becomes very expensive when you're demanding it save you. Every sales report felt personal. Every slow month felt personal. Every unanswered promotion felt personal. Because I wasn't just evaluating a product, I was evaluating my future. And that's too much pressure to put on one book, or a course, or a YouTube channel, or a dream. So when the books didn't take off, I pivoted. Because that's what you do when you're desperate to leave, right? You pivot. You don't stop to ask whether that deal was right. You don't stop to ask whether you were building from vision or from panic. You just find the next thing and you throw yourself at it. For me, the next thing was courses. I told myself, Vanessa, this is different. Courses are higher value. People pay for transformation. You have expertise, decades of it even. You've been a recreation therapist, a mindset coach, a federal employee navigating the system most people don't understand. Package that, sell that. This is going to work, I told myself. So I built them. I structured the curriculum, took more online courses to learn how to do online courses, outlined the modules, recorded the lessons, setting up my camera, adjusting the lighting, doing take after take until I got it right. I built the sales page, I wrote the copy, I created the graphics. I told myself, this time it's different. This time people will show up. I launched into what felt like an empty room. Crickets, y'all. The kind of silence that makes you question everything. Now, here's the thing about creating something that goes nowhere. It's not just about the money. And honestly, I wasn't spending a fortune, but I was spending some because these were digital products. The cost was time, energy, belief, but the real cost, the cost I didn't calculate, was what it did to my belief system. Every launch with no buyers whispered something. See, you're not an entrepreneur. You're not built for this. Nobody wants what you have to offer. You should just be grateful for the job you have and stop trying to leave. And the thing is, y'all, those whispers didn't just stay in the business part of my brain. They bled into everything. They showed up at work. They showed up in my prayer life. They showed up when I looked in the mirror. Because when you keep building exits and none of them open, you start to wonder if maybe you're not supposed to leave at all. Maybe you're supposed to stay, settle, accept, be quiet. But I couldn't be quiet. Something in me wouldn't let me. And thank God for that. Because while desperation isn't healthy, stagnation isn't either. Somewhere underneath all that frustration was a woman trying to listen to herself. Trying to honor what she already knew, trying to admit she had outgrown something. And that's not rebellion, that's awareness. Now hold on, y'all, because I need to pause here and tell you something really important. While all of this was happening, the books, the courses, the launches, the silence, best believe I was still showing up at my government job every single day, still performing, still supporting my team, still doing the work that mattered to other people. But inside, I was somewhere else entirely. I'd be sitting in a staff meeting, and on the outside, I'm nodding, taking notes, contributing. But on the inside, I'm calculating. I'm running the numbers. I'm thinking about the courses that didn't sell. I'm wondering if I should try a different topic. I'm scrolling through YouTube at lunch, watching videos about people who quit their jobs and moved abroad. I'm planning a life I wasn't living yet, while the life I was actually in passed by. And here's what I told myself during those years. I'm just being strategic. I'm planning. I'm preparing. This is what responsible people do. They build before they leap. But if I'm being totally transparent, and I am, I wasn't preparing. I was escaping. In my mind, I was already gone. I'd drive to work thinking about Mauritius. I'd sit at my desk dreaming about beach mornings and slow coffee and a life where nobody needed me to approve anything. I'd go to bed at night running through the business ideas that had nothing to do with my actual gifts and everything to do with my desperation to leave. And the worst part, I thought that was normal. I thought everybody lived like that, one foot in their real life, the other foot in their dream life, straddling the gap and calling it ambition. But it wasn't ambition. It was absence. I was absent in my own life. Now I want to tell you about a moment that happened to me more than once. I'd get in my car before work, not after work, not on a Sunday night, before work, and I'd sit there. The car would be running, the air conditioning would be on because I'm in Florida and it's hot in the mornings, and I wouldn't move. Sometimes for 5 minutes, sometimes even longer, because I didn't want to go. Not because I was lazy, not because I didn't care, but because every part of me knew I was supposed to be somewhere else. And here's what makes it difficult, y'all. I couldn't tell you where somewhere else was. I just knew it wasn't there. I knew I was being stretched beyond the container I was in. I knew I had more to give. I knew I was becoming someone different. And yet, every morning, I drove to the same place, parked in almost the same spot, walked through the same doors, and sat at the same desk. That's a unique kind of grief, when your next chapter is calling your name, but the door hasn't opened yet. So let me tell you what the waiting actually cost me. Not the money, though that was real. Not the time, though that adds up. It cost me focus. Because you can't build anything well when you're building it as an escape hatch. The books weren't labors of love, they were exit strategies dressed up as chapters. The courses weren't missions born from calling, they were escape pods. And here's the thing about escape pods, y'all. They're not designed to go far. They're designed to get you out, that's it. I wasn't asking, what does my audience need? What has God equipped me to offer? I was asking, what will sell fast enough that I can leave? That's a very different starting point, and it produces very different results. It cost me presence. I was physically with my family, but some part of me was always somewhere else. I was at dinner, but I was thinking about the course lunch. I was at church, but I was calculating how many book sales I'd need to replace my salary. I was supposed to be resting, but my mind was running spreadsheets. And y'all, presence is the only currency that matters in relationships. You can't bank it. You can't get it back. When you're not there, you're just not there. And the people who love you, they feel it, even if they don't say it. But maybe the biggest cost, the one I'm still adding up, is what it costs my peace. Because you can't be at peace and constantly plotting your escape at the same time. Those two things can't coexist. Peace requires acceptance of where you are, even while you're working towards somewhere else. But escape requires rejection of where you are. A constant low-grade rejection that follows you everywhere. I wasn't living my life. I was serving a sentence in my life while trying to tunnel out with books and courses that nobody was buying. Think about that. I was in prison, but I had the keys the whole time. I just kept trying to use the wrong ones. And the strange thing is, y'all, nobody around me would have known. I was still productive, still dependable, still performing. From the outside, everything looked fine, but inside, I was carrying exhaustion from somebody living two lives. The life I had and the life I wanted. That split is expensive. Eventually, it collects interest. Now, y'all, let's take a breath, because this is heavy. And I know some of you are feeling it right now. I want to invite you into a moment of quietness with me. If you're driving, keep your eyes open, obviously. But if you're somewhere you can, pause, close your eyes. Inhale through your nose. Hold it for a second. Now exhale through your mouth. Inhale. I am not behind. I am becoming. Exhale. I release the escape hatches I built from fear. Inhale. I am allowed to dream without running. Exhale. My presence is my power. One more. Inhale. And exhale. Now I want to picture yourself at your desk, at your job, wherever you go every day. Picture yourself there and ask yourself, am I here? Am I actually here? Or did I check out a long time ago? Sit with that question. Don't rush to answer it. Just let it be true, whatever the answer is. Now, there's a scripture that stopped me in my tracks when I was in the middle of all this. It's Psalms 127, verse 1. Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Y'all, when I read that verse, I had to close my Bible out because I had been building. I had been laboring. Late nights, early mornings, weekends sacrificed, energy spent, hope invested. I had been working. But was I building what God asked me to build? Or was I building a fire escape? There's a difference between building something with God and building something so you don't have to depend on God anymore. I think back to those books, those courses, those late nights working on something I hope would change everything. And I wonder how much of it was obedience and how much of it was impatience. How much of it was calling and how much of it was control. Because here's the thing about escape hatches. They're built on a lie. The lie is, if I can just get out, everything will be better. If I could just leave, I'll have peace. If I can just build this one thing, I'll be free. But peace isn't a location. And maybe that's what this entire season has been teaching me. Because if peace only exists after the promotion, or after the retirement, or after the move, or after the job offer, then peace isn't peace. It's a hostage. And I refuse to spend the rest of my life negotiating for something God already made available. Peace is not waiting for me in Mauritius. It's not hiding in a business that finally takes off. It's not at the end of a resignation letter. Peace is available right now, even in the cubicle, even in the meeting you don't want to be in, even in the season that's taking longer than you planned. And I had to learn that the hard way. I'm not saying don't plan. I'm not saying don't dream. I'm not saying stay in a situation that's training you. I'm still planning my move. I'm still building, best believe. But the why behind the building has changed. I'm not building to escape anymore. I'm building from vision, from calling, from alignment. And that changes everything about how it feels while you're doing it. All right, friends, grab your journals. You know what time it is. It's journaling time. Prompt number 1. When did you mentally check out of a space your body is still showing up to? Be honest. Name the year. Name the moment if you can. Prompt 2. What escape hatches have you built? Projects, plans, side hustles, detours that were really just attempts to run from where you are. Not things you built from love, but things you built from desperation. Number 3, if you knew, really knew, that peace was available right now in this season before any circumstance changed, what would you do differently tomorrow morning? Sit with those. Let them be uncomfortable. The truth usually is. Hey y'all, this is part 1 of the waiting cost. And y'all, we're just getting started. In part 2, I'm going to talk about something I've never spoken about publicly. The relationships that suffered while I was mentally absent. Because when you check out of your own life, you don't check out alone. The people close to me felt it. And I need to be honest about what that cost. If this resonated with you, if you've ever built an escape hatch disguised as a dream, leave a comment and tell me about it. Write the word present in the comments if you're ready to come back to your own life. I read every single one, and I genuinely love hearing your stories. And if you know of a woman who's tired in a way that she can't explain, share this with her. Sometimes the most powerful thing we could do is let someone else know they're not crazy. They're just ready. Y'all, thank you for starting this new series with me. The waiting room was about transformation. The waiting cost is about truth. And I'm committed to telling all of it, even the parts that don't make me look too good. If today's episode felt a little too familiar, if you've been physically present but mentally gone, I want you to know you're not failing. You're noticing. And awareness is where every meaningful change begins. Don't rush to fix it. Just tell the truth about it. You're not stuck. You're becoming. And sometimes becoming starts with admitting you've already outgrown where you are. I'm Vanessa, and this is Ways of Change. As always, you're never too late, and your peace is never too far. Bye.